Sade and Smooth Operator. It's 11:28 and you're listening to BBC Radio Kent. We've been talking about hugging today, whether everyone welcomes it, who you hug, and that bloke thing, the kind of slappy back thing that's not really a hug, but it's not a handshake either. Lee is in Leeds, the Yorkshire variety, not the Kent variety, and he listens on the internet, I presume. How are you, Lee?
Morning, Jules. How are you doing?
Yeah, really good, thank you. Who do you hug?
Hardly anyone, basically. My family live over in Australia, so I don't really hug family much at all.
No, that would be hard. I mean, literally all of your family in Australia, or just some?
Everyone. Yeah, mine.
Was it something you said?
It's all buggered off there.
So, no family to hug. Okay, so would you presumably do that backslappy thing with your friends, with your male friends?
Yeah, well, the thing is, I'm gay, so I hug both girls and boys. But I always find when you hug girls, it's always a real hug. But when you hug lads, it's never a full-on hug.
Okay, what is the? Explain to me the difference between a not real hug and a real one.
When you go into the handshake, you put your hand out, you shake your hand, then you pat on the back at the same time.
Okay.
So it's a fake handshake, a fake backpack.
Okay. And what about with your girlfriends?
Full-on hug. Squeeze, kiss on the cheek, lift you up, full-on hug.
Okay. Do you wish that you could do that with your male friends as well? I mean, why would it make any difference what gender somebody was?
I think it's even though I'm gay, it's a bloke issue. Blokes don't like showing affection. So if you was in town and two blokes had a hug, you'd look and stare. If two girls did it, you'd look and stare. If it was a man and a woman, you'd think, oh, that's cute. It's just how society is. That's
interesting. So it has actually nothing to do with sexuality and everything to do with the sort of programming that hugs should happen more between men and women.
Exactly. So if I hugged my boyfriend in the middle of Leeds, I might get shouted at, I might get told off. But if I hugged one of my female friends, nothing would happen.
Has that happened? Have you been shouted at for hugging your boyfriend in the middle of Leeds?
Luckily, I haven't. But it's always a worry.
Okay. Do you know, I don't know, it's been a while. I used to work in Leeds. Strikes me as quite a metropolitan city, quite a cool city, quite a young city. Yeah. Why are you fearful of displaying affection of that sort for your partner?
Because you see it on TV, on the soaps, on EastEnders, Coronation Street. There's always a fear. If two men show affection, it can result in hatred towards them. But if two women show affection, the lads will be cheering.
That's really interesting. So you're fearful of homophobic abuse even though you haven't had it happen to you because you see it documented in the media?
That's right.
Okay.
But if I'm out of Leeds, I will hug him.
Now, explain that one to me.
Because we was in Whitby the other week and was hugging all day. But because I don't live in Whitby, I don't need to be scared of being recognised in future. If I go to town today in Leeds, if I hugged my boyfriend in town today, I could be attacked, I could be shouted at, but I might see that person again in the future.
So is it more about the fact that you're not out with everyone you know and that you're worried that by hugging your boyfriend in public you will be outing yourself, whereas in Whitby it doesn't matter because nobody knows you?
No, everyone knows. Everyone knows I'm gay. Even people on Twitter know. I don't hide that fact whatsoever. It's the fact of strangers seeing me, but then remembering next time they see me. Okay. Interesting. Lee, we've also been talking, I don't know if you've caught this bit this morning, but we've been talking about sex and relationships education. You're quite young, aren't you? How old are you? I'm 27.
Okay. Do you remember what sort of sex and relationships education you had at school and when it started?
Yeah, we must have been about 13 years old. The girls were shown a video, and the lads in the class next door was going to talking to about putting a condom on. That was it.
You learned how to put a condom on?
And that was it.
Blimey, that's pretty poor, isn't it?
Out of 7-8 years of high school, it was a 1 hour.
And nothing in primary school?
Nothing in primary school whatsoever.
Okay.
And even though the teachers and fellow students knew about my sexuality, we never talked about it in sex ed.
So when did you come out at school? At what age?
I must have been about 12. I came out by mistake as well, because, like I said to you last week, Jules, I used to be a newspaper boy on a morning, and my maths teacher saw me hugging my then boyfriend on my paper round on a morning, and then my maths teacher mentioned it in class, not realising no one else knew.
So your maths teacher outed you?
Yeah.
Okay.
But luckily, there was only 1 or 2 people who didn't like it.
Yeah.
Most of the class, most school, perfectly fine.
But this is fascinating. You're 27. It's not terribly long ago that you were in school, and yet all you were taught was how to put a condom on in a 1-hour sex education lesson. They didn't talk to you about relationships. They didn't talk to you about good and bad friendships. They didn't talk to you about sexuality or consent or love. None of those things came into it.
Nothing at all. And the woman teacher and the man teacher who did the girls and the boys were our tutor group leaders, which was our science teacher.
So it was mainly scientific, what you learned, the biology of it?
No, it was a science teacher who told us how to do it, but we never spoke about it. I think they just pulled the staff member out of thin air and said, look, you do that.
Now, we haven't talked graphically about sex acts this morning, and I'm not about to start now, but if you're gay and you're only being taught about heterosexual sex acts, who do you learn from?
The internet. But again, when you Google and stuff like that, anything can come up. And then, of course, with parents having access to histories on computers, they can find out that way as well.
So did your parents have a look at what you were looking at, and were they a bit horrified?
There was, because even though I was out, we didn't talk about it. I remember my mum saying once, you get fair enough, but let's leave that alone now. So she accepted it, but she just didn't like to talk about it whatsoever.
That's not real acceptance, is it?
That's right. She knew I was, but she didn't want to cause a fuss.
Okay. Now, Lee, we have lots of people are gay, and we have lots of children in schools right now. So from this perspective of somebody who went through school and wasn't given any information about sexuality or, frankly, much apart from condoms, what do we need to do in schools to educate and help our young people to understand and to have healthy relationships and sex?
It shouldn't just be about physical. It should be about emotions. I feel like when you hit puberty, all these emotions come at you. Like I had feelings for lads, no feelings for girls whatsoever. I dated a girl in high school because I thought that's what I was meant to do. But I didn't date a lad up until a few years later. Still at school, obviously. But I think the emotional side of relationships, of sex, or even emotional friendships as well, like friends with benefits, for instance, that's just as important, if not more so, than putting a condom on. For
people who don't know what the phrase means, friends with benefits is?
It's 2 friends, could be male friends, or male and a female friends, or female and female friends. They're normal friends, not a relationship, but they have sex with each other. Okay,
friends with benefits, the benefits being the sex. It flies in the face of what a lot of perhaps our older listeners, but probably a cross-section of people think, which is that young people should be taught about sex within a loving relationship. Do you think that children should be taught that sex is good as long as they feel good about it, regardless of whether there's any love involved?
The thing is, times are changing. These days, you have a lot of access to details. In the past, it would be libraries. You wouldn't go into a library and get a book out. But you can open your phone, open your laptop and Google anything these days. So it is very important, but the number one lesson I would say to anybody is don't rush into it. Because I rushed into it and regretted it.
You rushed into having sex?
That's right. I was 14 when I lost my virginity, both to the girlfriend at the time and also to a lad. And the only reason why I had sex with my girlfriend at the time is because everyone else was doing it. Because I think if a teacher at school said, look, most people actually don't have sex until you're 17, you're 18, even though everyone says about it at 14, it's not actually true. Yeah.
So a lot of people are bragging, aren't they, when it's not actually happening?
That's right.
At 14, did either of you, I mean, given that you're gay and you now know you're gay but you're having sex with a girl, kind of complicates this, but I'm going to ask you anyway, did either of you really properly enjoy it?
No. It was awful.
That's really interesting.
Yeah,
Awful for both of you.
For both of us. After we finished it, and I put her on the bus back home, we looked at each other and we just said to each other, what have we done that for? It was just totally pointless.
Did you ever do it again?
No, not with her.
Okay.
But I remember when I was, I think it was 17 or 18, then I met a lad who we did it again with, and that was totally different. I could actually feel the love when we were doing it then.
I think people like you should get involved in sex education. I think the honesty with which you can talk about it, your candour, your honesty, your charm, Lee, is in abundance. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you again this morning. I'm really glad that we had you on the show. You take care of yourself.
Thank you.
Bless you. Lee in Leeds. Wasn't that interesting? Let's hear from you if you're in your 20s. What did you learn about sex and relationships at school? All Lee was taught was an hour, and it was one of the science teachers, and they took the girls to one side, and he doesn't really know what they taught them because he wasn't there, took the boys to one side, and all he remembers was being told how to put a condom on. Beginning and end of his sex education in school. What did you learn in school?